In this video, let's talk about a flurry of roster moves and player updates, an updated injury report, more punter drama regarding the field goals being missed, and then look at two key things that, if fixed, will make the Chiefs a legitimate threat for another Super Bowl run. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, and I do daily news about the Kansas City Chiefs. So make sure to sub, hit the like button, and let's get into this, starting off with an injury report, because there's some sort of bug, sickness, cold thing going around the team, specifically hitting the D-line. Mike Dana, Chris Jones, and Colin Saunders were all out sick yesterday and did not participate, but Chris Jones was back as a full participant today, so that's good and probably means whatever sickness is going around that he's had since Friday and affected his overall performance in the Texans game has finally run its course, and he should be more than good to go for Saturday's game. A new addition to the injury report, however, is safety Deon Bush, who did not participate today at practice due to an illness, you guessed it, and I can only presume this bug has now hit him as well and could possibly spread to others. I mean, Eric Bieniemy today during his presser was wearing a mask saying he was trying not to get sick, so it must be something semi-gnarly, even though one of the coaches, it might have been Andy Reid, said it was a cold that was going around, but it seems like a little more than that. Lastly, tight end Jody Fortson did not participate for the second day in a row due to an elbow injury that Coach Reid himself basically said, it's not a good one.
Jody Fortson has his elbow sublux, so he won't practice today either, and he'll struggle to make it to the game as we go forward. Tough kid, but he got banged up there pretty good.
Yeah, Coach basically never gives details for players like that, so this seems to be like a pretty banged up elbow, and he will more than likely not play Sunday, and worst case, we may not see Fortson for a few weeks, or maybe even more, which I guess could be the rest of the season, though I hope it's not that drastic, because this man has been through enough. He dealt with that Achilles injury last year and was out basically all season, so hopefully he heals up quick. And speaking of players and healing up, it seems we may see Mecole Hardman back this Saturday in the Seahawks game. Coach Reid was asked that today during his presser, and he said there is a good chance he's activated off of IR this week, which is great news for the Chiefs in the red zone specifically, as that's been an area they've definitely struggled in since his absence, and Patrick Mahomes seems to be excited as well to have Hardman coming back soon.
Yeah, I mean, he's been ready to go, man. He's been trying to get back as quickly as possible. He still has that great energy that he has in the locker room, and we'll get him in there. We'll get him in there, hopefully, if everything goes well this week, and let him kind of get back into the role that he was in.
Wide receiver Toney also fully participated yesterday for the first time since re-aggravating his hamstring, and he was a full participant today as well, which is good news and shows continued signs that he is healing up nicely. And at this rate, we may very well see him play even more against the Seahawks than we did last week. I would hope so. He only played 10 snaps against the Texans, 5 on offense, 5 on special teams. A healthy Mecole and a healthy Toney only could mean good things, though I would expect, honestly, both of them to be on a limited snap count of sorts this Saturday if they both do end up playing. My question is, though, if Mecole is activated back to the roster this Saturday for this upcoming game, whose spot will he be taking on the roster? That's what I'll be curious to see, because there's more moves that'll need to be decided upon as well, since Coach said CEH is making good progress and hopes to see him back in the near future, maybe within the next few weeks, my best guess. And also, tight end Blake Bell was seen at practice yesterday. Coach said he'll be returning soon. I mean, he kind of hinted at it at least. And in case you forgot, tight end Blake Bell's been out all season long after getting injured in a preseason game, and he had to have hip surgery. But him being back at practice, which is confirmed, means that his 21-day window to return from IR has opened, and he either comes back within 21 days or goes on IR for the season. So we could very well see Blake Bell back in the near future, probably not this week, but within the next couple, I would imagine. And because of that, we will need to keep our eyes open on the Chiefs' 53-man roster. 3 players, 1, 2, 3, could be returning in the next few weeks, so who will stay and who will go? Only time will tell. And then as far as the Seahawks injuries go, those who did not participate today, tight end Noah Fant, knee. Wide receiver Tyler Lockett, he had surgery on his finger or hand just the other day, and he's not playing. We'll just put it that way. He's not playing this week. He's probably playing next week, so they're going to be without Lockett. Then running back Kenneth Walker III, safety Ryan Neal, nose tackle Al Woods, and linebacker Bruce Irvin. None of those guys participated. Those who were limited was wide receiver Marquise Goodwin, then running back DJ Dallas, and linebacker Jordan Brooks. There's a few more on there. They fully participated, though. Another couple of linebackers, Darrell Taylor and Uchenna Nwosu. I probably said that name wrong, but I think that's how you say it, Elbow, and then defensive end Quentin Jones. And a couple we just need to keep our eyes on, at least just when I'm glancing. Kenneth Walker, their running back, then Noah Fant, their tight end. Then they have another running back on there, DJ Dallas, with the ankle. So we'll definitely have to keep our eyes peeled on those guys as the week moves forward. Speaking of moves, let's talk about roster moves because there's a couple that happened yesterday from the Chiefs practice squad. First up, linebacker Elijah Lee got signed to the Chicago Bears, signed by the Chicago Bears, which left one spot open. And because of that, the Chiefs decided to re-sign tight end Matt Bushman. And if his name sounds familiar, it's because he's the guy that went all the way off in the preseason game against the Packers, leading the team with 73 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, but unfortunately broke his clavicle in that game. After that, he was waived with an injury designation, placed on IR, then reached an injury settlement with the team, being cut a week later, became a free agent, yet now finds himself back on the team. Oh, the circle of life. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out with Bushman being brought back in, and then more tight end moves. You got Jody Fortson's elbow injury. We'll have to see what happens there. And then Blake Bell is potentially returning to the roster. So a lot going on specifically in the tight end room. Now, from here, I want to talk about a couple of issues for the Chiefs that, if fixed, in my opinion, will spell good things for the team moving forward into the postseason and could very well make them one of the most dangerous threats for another Super Bowl run. First off, this isn't one of the 2 things I have for today, but I will acknowledge that the Chiefs defense has to hold up in the red zone better against opponents, as right now they are last in the league, 32nd at touchdowns allowed in the red zone. And honestly, I don't know how realistic that is for the red zone defense to just suddenly get better when it's literally struggled all season long. So I'm going to share a couple of other things that, if fixed, it may not even matter how well the Chiefs defense does in the red zone per se, and you'll see why in just a moment. Some of the red zone pressure that has been put on the defense, the extra added pressure, has because the Chiefs offense has created the extra pressure by turning the ball over too many times. Currently, the Chiefs have the 3rd worst turnover differential in the entire league with a total of -6. That hasn't happened in a long time with the Chiefs. And that's because the defense, A, hasn't created a lot of takeaways, yes, but B, because the offense has had at least 1 turnover in 9 straight games with 5 total turnovers in the last 2 games alone. And the crazy thing is, if they can just clean up those turnovers on offense, it's going to dramatically help the defense by decreasing the number of drives the opposing team has and hopefully allowing them to score less points because the less drives they have the ball. Yeah, you get it. And then this will hopefully in turn increase the number of opportunities the number 1 scoring offense, the Chiefs, in the league has to put even more points up on the board. And from here, I want to look at something pretty insane because when I say the Chiefs have the 3rd worst turnover differential at -6, I'm not sure it shows how wild it is that the Chiefs are doing this well in spite of that. So look at this. With all the turnover issues on offense and lack of takeaways on defense, the Chiefs remain a bit of an anomaly on this list. Take a look. Here's a list of the teams with at least a -3 turnover differential or worse, and their record. The Browns have a -3 differential and are 6-8. The Raiders, -3 and are 6-8. The Jets, -3, 7-7. The Texans, -4 differential and are 12-1. The Bucks, -5 and are 6-8. The Chiefs, -6 and are 11-3. The Colts, -12 are now 4-9, and the Saints, -12 are 5-9. So, yeah, the Chiefs are the only team on this entire list with a record over 500, and it's not just barely over 500, it's way up over 500. This is quite the anomaly and tells me that the Chiefs offense is so effective at putting points up that they are still winning games in spite of their mistakes on offense and the defense's lack of takeaways on the other side of the ball. To the defense's credit, though, they've had a couple of splash plays in the last couple of games. Willie Gay's pick 6 for 1, then the forced fumble in overtime. Last game against the Texans, I believe it was forced by Frank Clark and recovered by Willie Gay Jr. 2 back-to-back huge plays for Willie Gay in back-to-back games. Now, that was one thing the Chiefs need to work on fixing prior to the playoffs, their turnover differential on both sides of the ball. The second thing on this list is going to be eliminating missed points via field goals and extra points. This has been a problem this season, and the Chiefs are bottom 4 in missed field goal percentage and bottom 3 in missed extra points. And my fear is if they don't fix this, they could very well lose a close game in the postseason because sometimes It literally comes down to the wire. Well, we all thought the issue had been Harrison Butker, or at least in his absence, the issue was also the kickers during that time. But as I reported in a recent video, former punter Dustin Colquitt had a finger to point at someone else, and that was current punter Tommy Townsend. That's right, Dustin placed more blame on Tommy's holds for Butker's missed field goals than on Butker and his injury recovery itself. And then remember that Tommy Townsend actually responded to Dustin on Twitter saying that if you're outside the building, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. Well, that response from Tommy is interesting because it seems like his mindset about Colquitt has been similar regardless if he's outside of the building like he is now, or even on the team in the same room as him, such as the 2020 season.
Coach Reed was always great about don't address people outside of the room. And so when he tweeted back, I was very surprised that because I would have never done that. I would have just looked at the information. Because right now, if they go into a special teams meeting, they're talking about this, because I was in the room in 2020 in Cleveland when he had 3 bad holds and Harrison missed 2 or 3 kicks. And what he said to me when I was in a Zoom meeting and when I addressed it in the building when we came in for practice was he goes, "Oh, you think so?" And I said, "No, I know so. A kicker doesn't want to see all that movement." I had those conversations with him, and they fall on deaf ears. You don't listen to me in the building, and you are a smart aleck, and I keep seeing it for the 2 years, 3 years, or whatever it is. Now, do you think they're going to be working on it a little bit now?
So, yeah, that was interesting to hear. It seems Townsend has never really been too terribly keen on getting advice from Dustin Colquitt, which is interesting because Dustin is a veteran with over 15 years of experience, comes from a family of punters, consults with punters still to this day, and his son punts in college, I believe, as well. So if Colquitt sees something, it's probably worth taking into consideration, and it's odd to me that Tommy Townsend didn't seem too willing to hear out what he had to say. I have a feeling it has to do with the fact that Tommy was the new punter, Dustin was the old, and Tommy was trying to assert his long hair dominance over the veteran and refuse his advice. Honestly, I have no idea why, but it's a little bit weird. Anyway, what Colquitt said isn't invalid just because Tommy said that it was invalid, basically, and both Coach Reed and Dave Tobe have acknowledged that they've heard what Colquitt has been saying, but it's not new news to them, meaning if they see issues, they are the coaches and are addressing it accordingly.
Yeah, I know what's been said out there. But there's nothing that gets by us on it. We look at everything, and we got to get through this.
There's a lot into it that goes, and Colquitt is definitely right as far as how much detail there is involved in it. There's a lot.
Big personality. Right. He loves to put his opinion out there. So I don't worry about all that. We do our thing. We study all that stuff.
Everybody has their opinion, and he's absolutely right. There's a lot of detail that goes into it, and it doesn't go unknown or unseen by us. I don't need to hear it from Dustin to make adjustments. Just so everybody knows that.
So to sum it all up, thank you for your service, Dustin, but it's all good, man. We studied the tape and we're working on it between the 3 of them. Be quiet. And when Tobe was asked specifically about Townsend's holding abilities, he quickly responded saying,
And he's a very good holder. Make no mistake.
So yes, I think they are confident in Townsend, and while he may have some holding issues, I don't know if Colquitt's approach was the best way to go, publicly blaming Tommy and even throwing him under the bus. On Twitter, one of his tweets said, "Tommy's been screwing Butker over all year with his holds," and Dustin actually did acknowledge in this interview on 810 Sports that while he just wants what's best for the team, he was probably a little harsh towards Tommy in one of those tweets.
I think the end of one of my tweets or so was probably a little bit unnecessary. But if he has all clean holds now and we hit all of our kicks, I've accomplished my feat. I can't hold on to this information knowing if Cleveland happened again and we don't make a play at the end of the game, we would have lost that. I can't hold that information. I want him to be successful, and I want another Lombardi trophy on a big fat ring for this city.
And then there's still the question of, well, how much of these misses are we to blame on Tommy's holds, and how much of this is on Butker and his actual kicking ability? Well, the truth is, it's got to be somewhere in the middle, man. It's mental for Butker to some extent since coming back from injury, and Colquitt himself made it seem like Butker may not be right physically until the offseason, though that doesn't mean he can't still make a lot of field goals with the proper hold and focus. And then, if all that wasn't enough, Coach Tobe made it clear that they're not going to just suddenly give up on Harrison Butker.
Butker's still a great kicker, and we're not losing any faith in Butker going forward. And I want everybody to relax. And we trust him, and he's going to get it fixed. You know, we will get it fixed.
He then said they are attacking it all, continuing to work at it, and per the words of Tobe, we will fix it. We are very comfortable with the holds. There's just a lot that goes into it. And with that, there is part 2 of the Punter Drama series surrounding the team's lack of ability to execute field goals and extra points at a high level. Regardless of who is really to blame, just please fix it before the playoffs. If you fix the issue, field goals and extra points, and the turnover issues specifically on the offensive side of the ball, I think the Chiefs will be able to win pretty much any game in the postseason because the offense can put up 30-plus points in a game that way, and I think that is what it's going to take to win in the postseason based on the defense's struggle in the red zone and their secondary's inability to stop receivers from having a heyday against them. No shade to them. They're just very young, and while Snead and McDuffie are absolute ballers, Joshua Williams was even on a list recently that I'll throw up above about separation allowed. And so, again, no shade to these guys. They're just seeming to struggle in the pass game, and the stats kind of back that up. And that's where I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Are these two things the top issues that can still be salvaged prior to the playoffs in your eyes, or is there another? I agree the defense is an issue in particular places. I'm just not sure how much some of these issues on defense are going to be able to be fixed this year. But either way, you got to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Then check out this crazy story about a Chiefs super fan who goes by the name Chiefsaholic being in jail for robbing a bank. Allegedly. You got to check it out. It is crazy. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?